On to Farah again to see her cooking her soup, which she will eat later. Farah?
Hi.
Hi.
Hello again. Okay.
Okay, you ready?
Yeah. So, hi everyone. Thanks for joining me back again. I will now be cooking the ingredients for the soup, which is made from my grown cress. For any of you who missed my first show, I'll shortly describe what I am doing. So here I am, first heating up some vegetable oil in a saucepan. I would use about a tablespoon of oil and just let it warm the pan up. So once it's hot enough, tip your onions inside and give them a stir. And let them cook for 5 minutes, stirring occasionally so they do not brown. They just need to soften. So in the previous show, I showed how I prepared my ingredients for my garden cress soup. So I'm using garden cress, which I have grown using pots from disposable masks. The masks I had collected from around Aberystwyth whenever I walked to the shops, to the university, or around the town. I brought with me a pair of gloves and a separate bag to collect and photograph them. So transforming the masks into pots to grow cress from is a reaction to the environmental effects of non-degradable masks, the way that they have no life cycle. They are used and disposed of afterwards. Growing something I could eat using my mask pots as containers seemed a natural progression as gardening and living sustainably has become a driving force in my life during the pandemic. I don't know about you, but I find it so confusing why people will buy and wear disposable masks when reusable ones are so easy to buy or even make yourself from old clothes. I initially assumed this was because they were more effective due to being designed specifically, but after researching it, this is not the case. So there has been research which has proven that they are both as effective as the other at preventing virus-loaded droplets from escaping the mask from the mouth and nose. A surgical mask is usually made up of 3 layers. The 2 outside layers are made from a non-woven fabric, which is often a paper material. The middle layer is made up of melt-blown polymer. This acts as the filter which stops microbes from entering or exiting the mask. Now don't forget to add the garlic into the soup after the onions and let it soften with them. The garlic does not need as long in the pan as the onions, as they can catch and burn quite quickly. So you should really be able to smell all of the brilliant flavours right now. Now the fibre material in the middle layer of the mask is often made of microfibres with an electrostatic charge. This filter acts by forcing the smaller particles to veer off and hit a fibre, rather than escaping straight through the mask, therefore increasing your protection. But surgical masks are not designed to be washed. It can damage the middle filter layer, which significantly reduces their protection against spreading the virus. Now, once the onions have softened, which is usually about after 5 minutes, it's time to add in the rest of the ingredients. So first, I'll put the cress in, and then I'll just give it a bit of a stir to mix in with the onions. So then you need to pour in the stock and the orange juice. After this, I'd leave it to simmer for about 5 minutes. It's quite tricky to get the temperature right, as you don't want the soup to boil, but you also need all of the flavours to really meld together inside the pan. But it's really easy. It's such a simple soup that's so healthy, and you could even go further and grow your own onions and garlic to go in it, as well as the cress. So I grew so many onions over lockdown. It was so exciting digging them up and seeing which ones grew and which ones didn't. There has been so much chop and change with the guidance on masks during the pandemic. I remember when it started, the general advice was that we shouldn't wear them. I never did until I had to, but then again, I didn't leave my house much during the first 4 months of the pandemic. I wonder if anyone else wore them before they had to. Please let us know your experiences in the chat. So even once masks were brought in as the law to wear them inside shops, restaurants, and on public transport, the guidance was still quite mixed and confusing. There was a minefield of different opinions about the wearing of masks to prevent the spread of the virus, the biggest one being that they gave people a false confidence, stopping them from socially distancing. Barely any governments from around the world actually stepped in and encouraged people to make their own masks, or indeed buy reusable ones. Perhaps if they had, then we would not be in this devastating environmental crisis right now. It's so saddening that all the progress the world had made with limiting our plastic usage seems to have disappeared. Feels like we've taken about 1,000 steps back. Aside from the environmental effects, of which there are many, there have been other effects due to the reliance on disposable masks. Hospitals around the world have seen a shortage in their supplies of surgical masks. This is absolutely ridiculous, as they're completely necessary for hospitals, but not for a quick pop into the supermarket. Some countries actually banned the selling of surgical masks to other nations. Perhaps there would have been less of a problem if banned altogether for sale to the general public. It deeply concerns me that throughout my project, when talking to people about the devastating environmental effects caused by single-use items, a lot of people are unaware of the consequences. In my conversations with people, I have found that some people use them despite knowing their negative effects. Now, I'd like to think they have a reason for this other than that they do not care. So once the soup has finished simmering, it needs finishing off with a few small details. First, you'll need to take a stick blender. This could also be done by pouring it into a blender or a food processor. It is as though disposable masks have become the new plastic bag. Perhaps the government needs to step in and force people to understand that they are causing irretrievable damage to our world. But then maybe they do not care either. So when you blend the soup, it's up to you how much you want to. Whether you prefer it to have a bit of a bite from the onions, but I personally find the crust quite stringy and think it tastes better when it's smooth. So once you've blended the soup, add in the yogurt, give it a stir and finish by seasoning with salt and pepper, or even some chili flakes. Cooking this soup has really made me reflect on how important and valuable it is to limit our usage of single-use plastic. It often feels quite inescapable to completely stop using it. Throughout cooking, I have found it in the bottle of the oil, the yogurt container, the packaging of the onion. By making one change to my life, growing the crest from the disposable mascots, I have grown my own food and also found a creative cycle for an otherwise non-sustainable product. Having grown my own cress, it also makes me ponder the other ingredients that I have used. There is such a high demand for everything, and this comes at a cost to the environment. With my own soup, I have used oranges from abroad and dairy in the yogurt. I mean, is it really possible to make everything we do sustainable? I would love to continue thinking of other uses for disposable masks and other single-use items that would other be thrown away. If anyone has any ideas or tips, please share them in the chat. It would really be wonderful. Please join me again in part 4, where I'll be eating my soup that I have made.